Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. We are going to unravel the mystery of face value on silver, gold, and platinum coins for the United States Mint and other nations around the world. And we're going to kind of try to resolve that mystery and discuss the complexities and also the wide gamut, the wide range of face value with extreme examples here in this video and how and why certain denominations are put on certain coins and explore and get an idea of what it means in terms of the intrinsic value of the pieces versus the face value that is imprinted on each of these round discs that we call coins. So let's explore. Yes, we have a lot of examples here, but before we get into that, we're going to utilize the United States decimal system as an example, as a starting point, because I think that's going to be probably the most easily recognizable or understandable for American collectors, but it can certainly apply with how other currencies have been set up in other nations around the world. There was a time when silver was utilized as money and as currency for everyday transactions. And what you see before you here are circulated silver coinage. And these are based off the decimal system, which is 100 of the smallest unit equals the basis unit, which is $1. So in other words, it took 100 cents to make $1. And the smallest coin in the decimal system is known as a dime here in the United States, and that is 10 cents. And then you have the quarter dollar, which means there's 4 of these would equal $1, would be 25 cents. 2 of the half dollars, so in other words, a dollar cut in half, would make 50 cents. And then the 100 cent coin would be the dollar there. And so that is a denomination there. And as you can see on these particular pieces, there are no numbers on any of these. Half dollar, quarter dollar, and 1 dime. That's right. None of these have dollar-denominated values on them, although their denomination is in the descriptive language of 1 dime, quarter dollar, half dollar, and $1. Although I will say that this does have a number on it with the with 1 there written. But essentially, this is the basis unit. The dollar is the basis unit, and these are subsets or fractions of that dollar, hence the quarter, the half, and then, of course, the dime there. I find that quite fascinating. That was set up by legislation and our system long time ago. In the 1792 was the Mint Act, which created the authority to create these coins. But by and large, up until 1964, 90% silver coins was the standard bearer. And that is how our denominations came into effect. Ever since then, well, the actual clad coinage carried the same denominations, and any of the silver coins were hoarded because their intrinsic value exceeded their denominated value. And so now we've come to a point now where the U.S. Mint has created these collector coins, and then you have silver coins such as this, which is the first classic, or first modern commemorative issue made of silver, a half dollar. This contains a lot more of the intrinsic value of the metal than the actual denominated value there. And you have other examples where you've got, the bullion program that was created, the American Eagle silver dollars, and these obviously have a dollar denominated on it, but it has a lot. It has about, 17 times that right now. So this coin is worth about $17 and some change as of the recording of this video. And So that is what makes a coin, is its dollar denominated value. If you take a piece like this is just a silver bar that was created by this company, Johnson Matthey. It has no dollar denominated value on it. Same thing with this piece right here. This is a round, and this is a bar. And what makes it a round is that it doesn't have a dollar denominated value on it. It is just a piece of silver that has been struck to look like a coin, but because it doesn't have any nation that has any issuance or a dollar denominated or a currency denominated, it does not make it a coin. We have another example of that with what's known as a metal. And metals don't necessarily always have to be associated with, a sovereign, such as a nation or what have you. But in many cases, if a nation produces or a national mint produces these pieces, we refer to them as metals. But there is no dollar denominated value on this, so this makes this a metal. And then you have situations where you have pieces like this. This is a privately issued product from a mint that has created what I refer to as a fantasy coin or a fantasy metal, and a very nice piece, but it has a denomination on it that does not exist anymore. And so you have situations like this as well. Then you have potentially some other pieces that are out there that could potentially get a certain mint or individual that produces certain pieces in trouble for producing a coin, what looks like a coin that could potentially fool some people. And that is the case here with these old Liberty dollars, which were very controversial at the time. It actually landed this person who created this in jail. And this is a $10 Liberty dollar. And so this particular piece was issued, but because it used a dollar sign and the number 10 there, it was considered illegal. And so this is technically not a coin because it is not sanctioned by the U.S. government or not backed by the U.S. government. Notwithstanding, we have other extreme examples of cases where you have the silver quarters that have been produced by the United States Mint, and these are quarters that have still the $quarter denomination on them because they are essentially pieces of silver that are produced for collectors. And then you have another thing, a bullion program here, where you have the America the Beautiful 5 ounce. And look at the denomination of this piece. Still a $quarter. Completely legal tender. If it came down to it, I was to go to the store to buy a pack of gum or so forth. If that pack of gum cost me $1, I could hand them 4 of these, and I could make that purchase. Now, obviously, it would create quite a scene if I were to try to buy a gum with such a large piece of silver. But if the teller has any knowledge at all of silver, they would be a fool not to take that bet. But take a look at that. Both of these have the same legal tender status, $quarter. I think that is quite an interesting extreme example. And here is another really bizarre example. Well, before we get to that, I'll use this. Here is a 1 ounce gold United States Mint American Eagle, $50 denomination. Here's another 1 ounce gold coin from the United States Mint, and it has a $100 denomination. So that is quite interesting. Same weight, the exact same weight on these coins as far as pure gold content. This has 1 ounce of pure gold, even though it is the purity. So this actually weighs a little bit more than an ounce with the alloy. But essentially, it contains 1 ounce of gold, and this particular coin is a 4/9 fine pure gold, and it is $100 as well. If you want to utilize an even more understandable example of that, you could take this gold buffalo, which has a $50 denominated value, and that's pure gold. That's 4/9 fine pure gold, and this is 4/9 fine pure gold, and this has a $100 denominated value. So there's that extreme example. And then, of course, platinum is worth less than gold these days. And this has a $100 denominated value. And this coin has a $100 denominated value. And this coin has a $50 denominated value. So there's not really much rhyme or reason for some of these designations. And, of course, commemorative coins that the United States Mint puts out have $1 denominated value. Here is the extreme version, where you have a 5-ounce coin that has a 1 cent denomination from the Royal Canadian Mint. This is 5 ounces of pure silver here, and it has 1 cent as a denominated value. Then you have a 1/4 ounce of silver here with a $20 denominated value on it. Now, both of these coins are legal tender. And in fact, this is the one exception where the Royal Canadian Mint issued these coins for collectors that could be utilized in transactions. In fact, some banks were taking these particular coins, and you could trade them in, and then eventually that stopped, and realized they could not do that, and it was kind of a real big of a hassle. But that is kind of the rare exception. But this is probably the most extreme example of the mystery of the face value. So that brings us to the conclusion of why in the world, how can we make sense of all these different denominations with such different sizes? I mean, here is a pure 1/4 ounce gold piece here that has the $2 denominated value on it. So how do we make sense of all this? How does this happen? Well, essentially, it's at the mercy of the governments that produce them. As you can guess, there are no real guidelines, especially for the United States Mint. They are at the mercy of Congress for most of these particular pieces that you see before you here and the face values that they contain. In the United States, the Congress sets these denominations when they write the bills to create these particular pieces. In other nations, they do it. They may not have their hands tied by Congress, but they may do it as tradition as to what maybe these coins were going for quite a while. And so it's something that they do. Essentially, it is arbitrary. But one thing is for sure, save for this example here of the 20 for 20 program from the Royal Canadian Mint, most of these nations post these dollar amounts, or they inscript them on their coins, to be much, much less than the intrinsic value, because it is there just essentially to say that this is a coin. But anybody would be really a fool to take one of these gold coins here that's worth, almost $1,480 and cash it in for $50. One would definitely not want to do that. So your best bet is to hold on to them. So the coin denominations on these particular pieces of silver and gold are simply there to give it credibility with the government. It is backed by the governments that issued them. And so they put a dollar-denominated value on these to show that they are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government or Royal Canadian or the Canadian government or what other nation that issues them, even if the denomination is so small that they essentially it's almost laughable. Like in this case, a 5-ounce $2. It's silly. Or a 1 cent 5-ounce coin. It really is something. It's quite intriguing and fascinating how this has come together. So there you have it. I hope that helped. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.